All right, today we're tackling something really specific and really draining. It's that invisible battle of dealing with narcissistic manipulation, but not behind closed doors. We're talking about out in the open, at work, in your social life. It's this super subtle psychological game, and we're going to break down exactly how it works. You know that feeling? It's just so confusing and exhausting. You walk away from a meeting or you leave a get together with friends, and you just feel off. Like you're questioning yourself, but you can't put your finger on why. There wasn't one single mean comment or obvious insult. If that sounds familiar, stick around. We're about to give you the map to understand exactly what's going on. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why public spaces are the perfect stage for this stuff. Then, we'll get into the specific tactics you see at work, and then how they shift in social circles. We'll also dive into the psychological traps that make it so hard to leave. And finally, we'll talk about the really serious, hidden consequences. All right, section 1, the narcissist stage. So, why are public spaces their perfect playground? Well, think about it. Places like the office or your friend group, they offer the perfect camouflage for this kind of manipulation. Unlike a private relationship, you've got professional rules, you've got social pressure to just keep things nice, and all of that, it's basically a shield for the aggressor. So let's get this straight, because it's a really important difference. We usually think of abuse as something that happens in private, right? Behind closed doors. But this is different. This is subtle psychological violence that happens right out in the open, disguised as just normal office chatter or friendly banter. And that's the genius of it for them. It lets the manipulator keep up this perfect public image while completely shutting down anyone who dares to question them. Okay, let's move into the workplace. This is where things can get really tricky. We're talking about the professional playbook for manipulation. Because when you're dealing with this, your job stops being about the work and starts becoming a constant power game. And the thing is, a manipulator isn't just lashing out randomly. Nope. They have a very specific set of tactics to control how everyone sees things, all while looking like the perfect employee. So, tactic number 1, and this one is a classic: stealing credit. You know how it goes. Someone with these traits will just take your idea, your work, your suggestion, and a week later they're presenting it in a meeting as their own genius moment. It's one of the quickest ways for them to build themselves up by tearing someone else down. And the worst part? What happens if you actually try to confront them about it? Well, they just flip the whole thing back on you. They'll use their position, their charm, whatever they have to suggest that you're the one overreacting, you're being too emotional, or you're just exaggerating. And the damage that does? Wow. You just start shutting down. You stop sharing your best ideas because you're terrified they're just going to get stolen again. All right, next up is a really, really nasty one. Tactic 2, professional gaslighting. This is an incredibly draining tool, and it's designed to do one thing: make you doubt your own sanity and your professional skills. So what is gaslighting, really? It's not about one big, obvious lie. It's more like a slow drip, a series of small, constant twists of the truth. But over time, all those little distortions add up. They start to paralyze you with self-doubt until you're second-guessing every single decision you make, every memory you have. Let's look at some real-world examples you might have seen. You know, they'll swear they never gave you certain instructions, making you look incompetent or forgetful. Or they'll retell what happened in a meeting, but their version is just slightly off, twisted in their favor. And they say it with so much confidence that everyone else starts to believe them. Every single time this happens, it's like another little chip taken out of your confidence. Okay, the third tactic in this playbook is something called strategic isolation. This isn't an accident. This is a cold, calculated move to cut someone out of the loop and basically set them up to fail. So how does this work? Suddenly, important meetings are happening and, oops, you weren't invited. You find out you were left off a crucial email chain. Key information that you absolutely need to do your job just never gets to you. And then what happens? Your work starts to suffer, naturally. And that's when they point the finger and use your poor performance as proof that you were incompetent all along. It's a vicious, self-fulfilling prophecy they create. So that's the office. But these games don't just stop at 5 p.m. Let's talk about our social circles, because the tactics just adapt. The core ideas are the same, but now they're designed to take advantage of the trust and closeness of friendship, right when your guard is down. One of the go-to moves in a friend group is humiliation, but disguised as humor. It's when someone tells a super embarrassing story about you or makes a joke using something really personal that you told them in private. And you know what they always say, right? Come on, it was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. That's the excuse. And when everyone else in the group laughs, it just makes it 1,000 times worse. It completely isolates you. It makes you feel like maybe you are the problem, that you're the one who can't take a joke, when in reality, you were just publicly shamed. But it goes deeper than just mean jokes. The next tactic is about controlling the entire social narrative. The manipulator works to become the main storyteller, the one who defines reality for the whole group. And how do they pull this off? Well, they're constantly telling these exaggerated stories where they're the hero. They become the gatekeeper, deciding who's in and who's out of social events. And here's the most dangerous part. They spread distorted versions of things that happen to make you look unstable. So by the time you realize you need to talk to your friends for support, it's too late. They've already poisoned the well. They've already painted you as the difficult one. Okay, so this all sounds horrible, right? So the big question is, why do people stay? Why is it so hard to just walk away from a job or a friendship like this? Well, it's not just about what the manipulator is doing. It's about the psychological hooks that get inside your head and keep you stuck. One of the biggest hooks is something called cognitive dissonance. Basically, your brain is trying to hold two completely opposite ideas at the same time. How can this person, who is so charming and funny and loved by everybody else, be the same person who is so cruel and manipulative to you? That contradiction is so confusing, it makes you start to doubt yourself, to doubt your own reality. And that doubt is what keeps you trapped. And then there's the other incredibly powerful hook, intermittent reinforcement. Think of it like playing a slot machine. Most of the time you get nothing. It's abusive, it's draining, but just when you're about to give up and walk away, bam, they do something nice. They give you a compliment. They're kind for a moment. It's totally unpredictable, and that tiny occasional reward gives you this rush of hope. It keeps you pulling the lever, hoping for another win, even as you're losing over and over again. All right, our final section. We need to talk about the hidden consequences, because being in this state of constant high alert, it takes a massive toll. We are not talking about just a bad week at the office or a rocky friendship. We are talking about deep, lasting damage to your health and well-being. What does this actually look like? Well, first there's the chronic stress and burnout. Your self-esteem is just systematically dismantled, piece by piece, until you start to question your own worth as a person. Then comes the debilitating social anxiety, where every conversation feels like a potential trap. And all of this leads to a profound sense of isolation, both emotionally and socially, which, if you think about it, was probably the goal from the very beginning. And the damage doesn't just stop when the relationship ends. This kind of experience can lead to what's known as relational trauma. The victim might find themselves, without even realizing it, repeating these same patterns, being drawn to similar people, falling back into submissive roles. The echoes of this manipulation can last for years. So where do we go from here? The point of all this isn't just to spot the tactics. It's to ask ourselves a really important question. Now that we have the words for it, now that we understand the playbook, how can we start to recognize these invisible battles happening around us? And maybe even more importantly, how can we start to disarm them, to protect ourselves and to protect the people we care about?